Thanks to listening. Munson at the movies.
He's got one foot in the frying pan and one in the pressure cooker. Believe me, as a bowler, I know that right about now, your bladder feels like an overstuffed vacuum cleaner bag, and your butt is kind of like an about-to-explode bratwurst.
Hey, do you mind? I wasn't talking when you were bowling.
Was I talking out loud?
Welcome to Munsons at the Movies. My name is Kyle. I'll once again be your host. Joined by the rest of the Munsons. Want to give them a wide berth.
What is called a born loser? A real Munson.
And talk a little bit about what's going on in their worlds. This time we'll start with Case.
Well, I had the opportunity recently to check out the 25th anniversary of Dogma. In hindsight, it's shocking that this was even controversial. But then the other part was I knew that there was a Q&A after, and as soon as the movie was over, everybody in the theater got up and started walking out. And I wanted to tell them, like, hey, guys, you just stick around. But then I wasn't positive that there was a Q&A after, so I didn't say anything. So then me and my girlfriend just sat there and watched a private screening of the Q&A of Dogma starring Kevin Smith after the theater. It was very neat, very cool. I felt very exclusive.
VIP over there, Case.
That's right. That's right.
Aubrey, what about you, man?
I'm just knee-deep in second basketball season, as I call it, while all of the other teachers are enjoying the wonders of summer and making all of their real job friends jealous. I'm still working full days, apparently, and on weekends somehow. I'm working more for whatever reason, but it's fine. I'm just sitting back, building Legos, watching the world burn, and getting to the movie theater every once in a while. Ballerina's great.
Yes. Did your theater go like apeshit when they saw the Buster Keaton stuff playing in the background, like Three Stooges type stuff when they turned the TV on? And
I did, but no one else did.
Oh,
the crazy old woman who was really into the hardcore violence, she didn't react to that, even though I thought that she would. I was into it. I thought that was hilarious.
She's there for fire, man. She wants fire and brimstone. She didn't care about these Easter eggs. Nah. James, what about you, man?
Yeah, man. So last time I spoke to you guys since then, little Andre Holland Jr. over here, her classmates some have graduated, and so some of the younger kids have come into her class because she's in the oldest class at the preschool. And I've gotten sick twice. One of them was a nice little Father's Day gift. Lost about 7 pounds just by sleeping, which was nice.
Nice.
The other one was the Father's Day gift, which was a little hand, foot, and mouth to celebrate the weekend. It was great. So things are going well over here. You're getting my flu game, if you will.
I need to figure out where your daughter frequents, because one of my coworkers, her daughter, who's also 5, also has foot, hand, and mouth disease. So I'm wondering if you guys are going to the same school, or if it's just a plague on Indianapolis at this point in time.
It's because the problem with it is it doesn't bother you really until nighttime. And so during the day, you just spread it to each other like it's nothing because you're just living your life. And then by the time everyone realizes what's going on, it's like, oh, we all have it. All right.
Oh, joy.
Yeah.
The additional problem is that daycares and preschools are a cesspool.
Yeah.
And I hate them.
Bingo.
I used to never get sick. I would never get sick. And then this bum started going to daycare, and I was sick like every other month.
Dude, it's a minor setback for the kid where they have like a couple nights of like, feeling icky and bad night's sleep. And it's me coming face to face with God twice a year where it's like, this could be it. This might be how it ends.
Because I feel like you're always having the health routine, James, where you're like, miracle weight loss strategy. My kid got sick again. I lost another 10 pounds. Like that's a whole infomercial.
It's like how you put a positive spin on it.
Yeah.
You have the credentials. In my world, I've commented today about just like AI and where it's at. And so these videos of like, have you guys seen these like gorilla videos where they take the AI of like random gorillas? And the one is the whole concept of one gorilla versus 500 men or whatever, who would win in a fight. And it's objectively hilarious to watch those videos. And then I take a step back and I realize how good the AI is. And I realize we're all going to die because people are fucking stupid.
Yes. That's the problem is like, it's not you, it's your mom and dad that are like, did you see that gorillas can talk now? And you're like, oh my God. Like, come on. I can't teach you how to spot that this is fake.
No, I mean, before AI, people were already ungodly digitally illiterate, and now with AI, you're going to spend so much time trying to rewire to your grandmother why that politician didn't stab somebody in public. Like, that's just not what happened, Grandma.
Just have to delete the internet off people's phones.
We're just doomed. Enjoy it while you can. That's my point at the end of the day. Well, we're happy to have Cam Sully of the Jacked Up Review Show podcast back with us. He is just a film buff and former indie filmmaker who organizes his commentators to rank everything from cult films and shows to video games, music, and food. He was previously with us for the Keith David, Dennis Haysbert, Kristen Shaw, Julia Stiles, and Steven Sex Icon Tobolowski episodes. Welcome back, Cam. Cam, how's life?
It's been better.
Oh, no.
We're glad to have, hey, at least you're here and talking Lorraine Toussaint with us, so that's good.
Yeah.
Yeah, man.
For 2 hours, we'll get away.
There you go.
You do know your actors and the work they do on screen, especially in the television world, so excited to talk with you today.
Likewise, I think everyone's going to bring up some good points, and there'll be plenty of tomatoes thrown at some of the bad movies that were featured in other great actors' filmography as well.
Oh, yeah. I watched one today with Jamie Lee Curtis that we'll get into later tonight. Birthdays, June 26th. We've got 3 goodies, I think.
Yes.
First and foremost, we've got Robin himself. We've got Chris O'Donnell, known for things like Batman and Robin, Son of a Woman, The Three Musketeers, Vertical Limit, fantastic movie, School Ties, The Bachelor, NCIS Los Angeles, Fried Green Tomatoes, and Kinsey. How old is Chris O'Donnell? That is not a name I've heard of in a while.
Got no idea.
Gotta be 52.
It's a good guess. Good start.
He's getting up there.
Yeah, I think Cam's on the right path here. I'll go higher. I'm going to go 57.
Give me 55.
I've got no idea. After looking at this GIF, if I could pick this guy out in a lineup, I have no idea. Let's see. So my rules are white guy, looks older than he actually is, 53.
That's a good guess, but there's a better guess in the bunch, and that's because he's turning 55, so Case takes that.
Ooh, hooah. Wait, what was the sensible one?
Hooah! That's right. Next up is former Munson Aubrey Plaza, known for things like Emily the Criminal, Ingrid Goes West, Dirty Grandpa, Agatha All Along, The White Lotus, Happiest Season, Black Bear, fucking crazy, Child's Play, An Evening with Beverly Luff Lynn, a podcast favorite, 10 Years, another podcast favorite, Scott Pilgrim, one of my favorites, and The Pistol Shrimps, the best documentary we may have ever covered on this podcast. How old is Aubrey Plaza?
Best documentary in the world.
With her extensive background with knee injuries, I'm going to give her 34.
Yeah, I think she's torn 2 ACLs, the same ACL twice, I believe now.
Yeah.
Go listen to our Aubrey Plaza episode if you want more details about her tearing her ACL as a pistol shrimp.
Teaser.
That episode is awesome.
It is.
Yes, it is.
She is 37 because that's how old I am. And that's the only thing I'm going based off of.
He's 20.
Cam, what do you got?
I was thinking 32, and as we'll find out in a minute, I'm way wrong.
32? Yeah, you are wrong. You're under, so that's important.
Yeah.
She's turning 41, so I believe that was James, right?
Yeah.
37 was the high mark. Nice.
Mm-hmm.
I do find it funny, though, because it's like some people you can tell are 30-something, but then there's others like, I really don't know. Even though you're 40-something, you still look like you're mid-30s.
Yeah.
I love the fact Aubrey lost twice tonight. That doesn't happen very often.
And at his own doing, too. All right, last and certainly not least, we have Nick Offerman. Another, he's frequented some shows with Aubrey over the years. The Great North, Mission Impossible Final Reckoning.
Yeah.
Boys, just to throw that out there. Hearts Beat Loud. Great little indie picture. Little Hours, The Founder, Parks and Rec, Me and Earl and the Dying Girl, 22 Jump Street, We're the Millers, and lots of TV. How old is Nick Offerman?
He also plays the president in Civil War, which is the least political movie about politics I've ever seen in my life.
Oh.
It's so actively not about politics, it blows my mind, but he is the president in that movie.
I'm blinded by recency bias here, and so for somebody to reach the rank that he did in the military, you'd have to be at least 62.
Good math.
He was up there.
65.
I'm going with 53.
Yeah, how old was Chris O'Donnell?
55.
Yeah, I'm going 55. Same age.
All right.
James, is an interesting strategy. And it's a winning strategy because he is also 55.
Him and Chris O'Donnell are the same age?
Same age.
Come on.
Same birthday.
I say this respectfully, but that's the whitest white guy shit I've ever heard in my life. Two dudes look so completely different, but they're the same exact age.
That's hilarious.
I don't know what Chris O'Donnell looks like right now, to be fair. I just know what he looked like 20 years ago in his film career.
He doesn't look like Ron Swanson.
That's true.
Yeah, he doesn't look like that, but it is one of those. Is like I do think he's got some hair clip-ons, like some celebs do at that age. But
Also, he's a born and raised Midwestern white. They come out of the womb at like 32. So that's, you got to take that into account.
Hilarious.
Honorable mention birthdays for June 26th, Ariana Grande, star of Wicked. And then Jason Schwartzman, who, is in every Wes Anderson film ever made and will forever be made. So happy birthday to those 5 individuals and anybody else with a birthday on June 26th. We are at episode 120. And for episode 120, we had 5 actors we threw onto the wheel. Those 5 were Tommy Lee Jones, Dermot Mulroney, Giancarlo Esposito, and Katherine Heigl. But it doesn't matter because the wheel selected Lorraine Toussaint. She's got 120 credits, 2 producing credits. And so we're going to kind of get into the highs, the lows, the roles we enjoyed, the ones we hated, and everything in between as we talk a little bit about her on and off the screen. Before we get into those nitty-gritty details, we start with a little actor trivia to see if James can stump us Fast and Furious style.
Yeah, so Cam, you're part of the initiated, but for those of you at home who are new to the podcast, I'm going to read off 3 facts here, 2 of which are going to be true about the woman of the hour, Lorraine Toussaint, one of which is not going to be true about her, but will be true about one of the many illustrious cast members of the Fast and Furious franchise. Gentlemen here are going to have to guess which fact that is. Fact number 1. She's a published writer and social commentator, having written many times for the Huffington Post, mostly challenging superficial activism, urging deeper, more meaningful engagement with feminist movements. Fact number 2. She described her childhood as one where she learned to be invisible and not express creativity to the point where any creative outlets, including her own personal instruments, were forcibly removed as a punishment. This drove her further into isolation, but is ultimately the cause of her getting into the arts. Fact number 3. She received her first paying gig as an actress on the day she graduated from Juilliard.
All right.
There's so many good pulls with the Juilliard piece with Fast and Furious.
I think you guys know that I already know this one, so I'll go first. The lie is number 3, and that is clearly about Decatur, Alabama native Lucas Black. And for no other reason that I drove through Decatur, Alabama on a pilgrimage to the legendary music studio Muscle Shoals. And I sent you guys a picture of Decatur, Alabama, so I think that is swaying the judges.
Everybody knows. Classically trained Juilliard actor Lucas Black. That's where you get that accent. I think Case is onto something, but I'm going to go to number 2, because number 2 is alluring to me.
Ooh.
The idea of a Fast and Furious actor who wanted to play an instrument when they were younger, and it was stripped of them. And so because of that, they felt scorned. It took them into the arts. I got to think that's why Jason Statham is so ungodly angry all the time. He had his sights set on playing clarinet at the age of 9. And his mom was like, "Hey, ain't playing no pussy-ass clarinet." And ever since then, he's just been angry about the world around him. So that's my guess.
That's fair.
I'm with Kyle on this one. It's number 2, except it's T-Pain.
T-Pain, is he in the Fast and Furious movies?
He's in one of them.
Music.
Is he? All right. Hey, that counts.
Don't make me look up my little rappers list.
He is in the Fast and Furious movies.
Hell yeah. I didn't know that. What do you got, Cam? What do you got for us?
What was number 1 again?
She's a published writer and social commentator, having written many times for Huffington Post, mostly challenging superficial activism, urging for a more deeper and meaningful engagement with feminist movements.
I feel like that's a Michelle Rodriguez lie, so I'm going to go with number 1. I think number 1's the lie.
Appreciate the answers. I will start with number one. That is true. She's a published writer, social commentator, having written many times for Huffington Post, including the boldly titled essay. And I want to say that this title was chosen because of its shock value. She titled it Black Pussy Matters, which was aimed at reclaiming the language and power within Black feminism. Obviously, that title is completely at odds with her rarefied kind of public persona and dignified public persona. But the overall message of the essay is very relevant today, which is the need to acknowledge Black feminism as part of the larger feminist movement. The use of the particularly vulgar word in the title was specifically to reclaim it from what happened during the 2016 presidential election. She said at that point, the word had become so normalized that awful men had kind of brought it to the forefront. But then she realized it was accepted and picked up by the women's movement in a way that actually felt kind of shallow to her. And she says, if we're going to take reclaim the power of that word, it can't be shallow, it can't be superficial, and it can't be a fad, which honestly is pretty relevant today with the protests we see and how tone deaf some of the protesters are, as they are not really focusing on the message and are more so just trying to go viral and turn into memes with how funny some of their signs are. But for a actress at that point who was on Orange is the New Black, which is a huge show at that moment, to be that outspoken, I was pretty blown away by someone putting themselves out on the line like that.
Taking the venom out of the sting, basically.
It was pretty impressive, especially with how nuanced the article itself was. Fact number 2, she described her childhood as one where she learned to be invisible and not express creativity, to the point where any creative outlets, including her own personal instruments, were forcibly removed as a punishment. This drove her into isolation, but ultimately was the cause of her getting into the arts. That's true. Yeah. She was born in Trinidad and Tobago. She was raised under what she refers to as strict British colonial education system, and described her childhood as silent and dark terror, and she had to stay invisible. Her mom was a Montessori teacher who immigrated to the U.S. and wanted to establish herself before bringing Lorraine over to join her. She's like, I was raised by teachers and women who incredibly valued education, but the British education system treated children like animals. She was pretty much driven into hiding her personality. She's like, I loved playing the violin, and they were like, no, we don't do that. And the teachers would take her instruments from her. And so eventually when she went to move with her mom, I think the quote she had here is, I knew I was never going to look back, and that the son inside me was going to come out. And she moved to New York when she was 11. And I think she was into a arts high school by the time she was 15. So it was pretty much instantaneously she got into the arts. Yep. Mm-hmm. In fact, number 3, received her first paying gig as an actress on the day she graduated from Juilliard. Also true. All 3 of these are true.
Dang it.
I felt bad. I didn't really want to downplay either the achievements or the seriousness of some of the facts I had for her and be like, actually, it's MC Jin. Like, I just felt like with some of this stuff, it was too serious. Yeah, she actually begged her mom to enroll her into acting school. She ended up getting into New York's renowned High School of the Performing Arts. Afterwards, she went into Juilliard's drama school. She graduated with a bachelor's degree, and on her graduation day, she got her first paying gig as Lady Macbeth in a traveling Shakespeare company. Obviously, it's not Broadway, but she immediately got into the theaters, and she got that the day she got her diploma.
Didn't have to wait long to just head to set, man. That's nice.
Right?
Yes.
Pretty smooth transition.
Well, good job, James. Always stumping us, my friend. That was good. I don't think any of us was on your trail on that one.
Ryan.
All right. Case, what have we got for a snapshot in box office? We just talked about this woman's body of work is pretty eclectic, maybe small roles in a lot of this. So I'm interested to see what you qualified for your spreadsheet.
Once again, we're not really dealing with a super accurate box office snapshot. The main reason being that most of her substantial work was based on stage and small screen. Mm-hmm. She doesn't have a great amount of movie work that reflects her box office outside of made-for-TV and streaming movies. But that actually works for her because a lot of her non-theater-based streaming and TV movies do very well with critics and audiences. So her score is really saved by that. Mm-hmm. I was only able to find 13 movies that had full information about her box office contribution, and 6 of them lost money. The Glorias is the most interesting, as it was very highly anticipated film during the film festivals, and it had a reported $20 million budget, which the director disputed, saying, we didn't spend that much money. But it only world grossed $31,000. But I should point that the movie was released in September of 2020. So I think we all know why that movie did poorly.
Yeah.
James, you got a good $31,000 anecdote?
Honestly, you could have a little bit left over, but you could get a certified pre-owned 2018 Toyota Sienna, which is a pretty nice little family van you got there, and you'd have some money left over to,
Oh, yeah.
go on vacation, if you will.
Yeah, take a road trip in it. And that's a nice, reliable vehicle.
Yeah.
Sadly, though, her biggest box office flop was not due to COVID. The high-profile Hudson Hawk, starring Bruce Willis, it only world grossed $17 million against a $65 million budget. That's pretty rough sledding for a 1990s blockbuster film. Okay, for what it's worth, here are the numbers comparing her to other actors we've covered. Average budget, she's 107th with a $23.7 million average budget. Box office totals, she comes in at 118 with $647 million. Star meter, which is probably the thing I spent the most time researching, she's actually 33rd at a 558, and I suspect it had to do with The Better Sister that was out on Amazon Prime, in which she had a very, very good role in. Next, her critic and fan ranking was really good. Critic ranking, she comes in ranked 7th at 68.7%. Fan ranking, she comes in 22nd at 64.6%. And she's 81st and 94th in two different box office metrics, which gives her 40 out of 120. So she's just in the top third, which, again, I don't know how accurate that is, but I do find it at least an interesting start point.
The most glaring piece there for me is her IMDb score. And I think it goes to show she's so prolific in television and a bunch of TV shows that I just not really on my alley that I would watch. But I think audiences know who she is because of some of the TV that she's done. So it's interesting. It goes to show that, hey, this is why we do this. It's well-rounded.
Yep.
All right. Well, Case, I appreciate you, man. Thanks for getting us started here.
Yeah, man.
All right. So before we get into some of these big roles, especially first major role, and then digging into some of the stuff we loved or hated, we always like to talk a little bit about kind of their start off the screen, early days. So, some of this is just piling on to what James talked about, but first major role we're going to talk about is 1991, technically 1989, somewhere in that ballpark. Depends on where you find it, honestly, where it's listed. But born in Trinidad and Tobago, the interviews I saw, she talked about how she was born into the dominant culture, right? So the idea of being in the U.S. and being part of a minority group, that wasn't the thing there because they were under British rule until she was 9. But that's just all she knew. So I thought that was kind of an interesting perspective, thinking about your upbringing, kind of where you're at before you moved to New York when you were 11 or 13 or whatever it was. But like James mentioned, moved in the late 60s. Graduated from the Manhattan School of Performing Arts, Juilliard, got her Bachelor of Fine Arts in 1982. And we haven't covered anybody who was born and raised in Trinidad and Tobago. So that's a cool difference of type of actor that we're covering, which is interesting. And like James talked about, she began her career as a Shakespearean actress. So doing stage work. So doing the stage thing like Andre Holland, like our last episode, and starting on the stage and getting work there.
Mm-hmm.
If you look at famous Trinidad people, she comes in on almost every list. The only other actor that I could find that's still alive is Winston Duke.
Okay.
And he also moved to New York when he was a kid. So it's very interesting culturally.
Well, he's big time these days too. So
yeah,
Winston Duke's pretty high profile. The man's killing it. Go see Us if you haven't seen it. As we kind of talk about, a lot of this you may have heard of, you may not have, but her first film role was in The Face of Rage, 1983, played Stenda. It's a TV movie. So that would make her at 22, 23 years old, kind of showing up on the movie side. Did another TV movie in 1986 called A Case of Deadly Force.
I have heard of this one. I unfortunately haven't seen it yet, but I do know it was a very high-ranked TV movie back in the day. It just brought up a lot of just darks and vigilante type stuff in there.
Yeah, it seemed to have pretty good reviews for a TV movie in the 80s.
And she had a heavy role in it. Her husband is killed in a police shooting accidentally, like an innocent bystander.
Yeah.
So she plays the widow, and she's working with the lawyer trying to get this right. It's a pretty heavy role, to be honest. She seemed like she was carrying it pretty good. I didn't finish watching it, but it was fun to watch her in it that early in her career.
She did an episode of One Life to Live in 1988, so go on the soap side there.
Yep. I have a friend who's obsessed with it, and I always get to mock him for it. But yeah, she apparently was on that for a while, I think for 1 year. So
before Hudson Hawk, she did A Man Called Hawk in 1989. So I don't know if that's a prequel, precursor.
It's a Spencer for Hire spinoff.
I know.
She's in good hands.
I'm trying to get the Hawkiverse going here, so you just gotta stop breaking my heart here. And then she, like many actors, was on Law & Order. She played defense attorney Green, 7 episodes over a 13-year span. 1990 was her first appearance, and recurring 6 more times.
She was always the defense attorney, and she came in at the right time when the show was vamping up, getting better cast, better production, better political arguments, and they often would give her a very unusual client to defend.
Well, there are plenty of those on that show.
Yeah.
If you're playing a defense attorney, she should have had a lot more than 7 episodes. There was a lot to be had.
It was like Eddie Falco's characters. They would bring her in every 3 years, basically.
What I'm hearing is Case is going to knock her Munson Meter because she had the most typical role possible outside of the guy who did something awful in that show, and only 7 appearances. That says something. I don't know.
Yeah.
All right, well, let's get into first major role, which is her role as Delphine in Breaking In from 1991 or 1989. Again, depends on where you find it. So first off, finding this movie is very hard. But luckily, like a lot of movies in the 80s and 90s, if you look hard enough on YouTube, you can usually find it streaming somewhere. Not great quality, but you can usually find it streaming somewhere. So for those out there, hit the YouTube in the States, you'll find it. Plot synopsis for Breaking In. Professional thief named Ernie takes Mike on as an apprentice, but while Mike clearly has larceny in his heart, it will take him a long time to get as good as Ernie. Ernie's played by SNL legend Burt Reynolds. Very intentional language choice there. There's a really funny scene in the movie when he's with Lorraine Toussaint's character and others, and they ask him what he does, and he calls himself a night worker and a currency relocator, which is a fantastic way to describe yourself as a thief. I might become a currency relocator soon. He's basically this old-time crook who stayed off law enforcement's radar for a long time because he knows how to avoid risky exposure. This kid he takes on as his apprentice tests him because he's very laissez-faire, he's flashy, he's buying cars. He's basically violating every principle that Burt Reynolds ever had about how to stay off law enforcement's radar. Like, keep a steady, shitty job, save your money, do your thing, but don't put any extra flashlight on you.
Don't bring heat.
Yeah, exactly. We don't need no heat. You won't be shocked to know that Tobolowsky makes an appearance as the district attorney in this, and he's exactly what you would expect Stephen Tobolowsky to be. Very serious, very matter-of-fact, very angry, and he is dead set on trying to get this kid on charges and put him in, because, shocker, the kid ends up getting caught and decides not to throw Burt Reynolds' character under the bus. Lorraine plays a sex worker escort named Delphine. She first appears when Ernie decides they need a little entertainment. So he gets on the phone, calls up Delphine and her friend. In the context of the story, he's known her for about a year, at least that's what he says. And she represents one of the few people that Ernie trusts. So, like, given the nature of what he does, right, the one person he can confide in is the sex worker that he calls routinely, right? Because by doing what he does, you stay off the radar by not trusting people. And it just ends up he trusts her. So she's kind of like his confidant in the movie.
Yeah.
So she's the closest thing to a partner that he has in his career. So she actually had a lot more screen time than I thought she would. I thought it was going to be like a 1 or 2 scene thing.
Right.
She keeps popping up in the movie as it goes along. What kind of stood out to me is, like, she's 28 at the time of filming. I think 28, 29. And for her first major role, what I gathered is like she seems pretty seasoned at this point. It's not like a lot of actors we cover with their first major role where you're like, ooh, that's rough. Ooh, that's a little choppy. Like,
right.
She commands the screen well. She handles her lines well. It's not the most compelling performance in the world, but it's believable. And I think that's all they're really asking for in that moment. The movie is decent. You know, it's like a 5 or 6, depending on if you like Burt Reynolds and you like these kind of like a thief picture. It's not a bad watch.
I'm closer to John Sayles' later works. I'd swear he definitely gets stronger, like The Brother from Another Planet. Well, actually, that was earlier, but there's a few other ones. But given his popularity, I am surprised that it hasn't been like reissued, like in a big Blu-ray pack.
Yeah,
his other stuff.
You can't find it anywhere, so they're not doing a great job of distributing it to where it could have a resurgence, right?
It's wild.
But a cool role. Cool to watch her. I enjoyed the movie. No complaints here. I don't think she was going to win any Oscars from it, but I also didn't walk away going like she was actively bad or that was rough to watch kind of thing. Perfectly steady, quality performance on her part, given what the script gave her. That's my review breaking in.
Burt Reynolds rarely comes up in our podcast, and it's a pleasure to finally to bring up the famous mustachioed sex symbol of the 80s. It's very exciting.
That's true. We don't really get to talk about him much. That is very true. Well, 91, so before our next review here, just in 91 there, did another TV movie and 3 one-episode TV spots. So I don't think breaking in like lit up her career in any way. So just continue to get the work, right? Her agent's getting her on screen wherever they can.
No one's complained yet.
Well, they're about to.
That's why I said yet.
She shows up in our lowest critic score, which is the aforementioned 1991 classic with Annie McDowell, Hudson Hawk, where she plays Almond Joy. Cam, as our guest Munson, has this review.
This is always an intriguingly bad movie because you're just wondering, you know, what happened from the ground out? Who saw any light at the end of this, you know, dense tunnel? Because the cast is there. It's a Princess Bride type concept. You know, people go into fantasy land, but everything's out of whack. The characters all have terrible names, including her. Plot doesn't make a lick of sense, and neither do the gags. And so it's just always been a cluster that every time it's on a bad movie podcast, I'm always amused by what someone will do a different take on it, but it always ends basically the same. Just what a dud. What was going on here? I think she made it out of the tunnel, though, probably on this one, just because she's like a one-scene character, you know? I don't think anybody is ever blamed for their roles.
I mean, maybe Bruce Willis.
Well, yeah, because he wrecked it by telling everybody, let's not do anything you have scripted, let's do my thing. And so it's definitely a bad vanity piece, but it is also just, I'm not going to throw any shade at Coburn, or you guys mentioned an Andy. She suffered because she was a last-minute rehire, and then Aiello doesn't know what to do either. And Sandra Bernhard and Richard E. Grant are also playing just very shallow villains and extremely annoying in this.
My favorite fact about this movie is that Richard E. Grant and Sandra Bernhard are great friends in life now because of how much they both fucking hated being on this movie. They knew it was such a train wreck that they're like, we literally have a friendship because of the chaos that we dealt with on that set.
It's just a mystifying kind of movie because when you don't even have a plot to begin with, it's like, how do you expect to keep anyone's attention for 2 hours?
Hold on. Bruce Willis was a writer on this movie?
Yes, he was.
Yeah, unfortunately. Joel Silver gave him all the money.
Oh, okay. I wish he would have led with that so I would have stopped listening.
If you look at reviews online, there's been like this attempted resurgence by fans being like, not as bad as you think. And you're like, shut up.
It's actually worse than I remembered.
And her character is called Almond Joy because their little crew of time-traveling nerds decided to name themselves after candy bars, if I remember correctly, right?
Yeah, it's just like, of all the jokes, why did you pick this joke? It doesn't matter. It doesn't make sense. It's just like...
I like that her first 2 major characters in movies are Delphine the Hooker and Almond Joy. That's a good start. That's a way to pad the resume early in your career. To be fair, Almond Joy is delicious.
Yeah, I'm not hating on the candy. Everybody in the movie, it's like almost a precursor to Tarantino. Everybody gets a nickname, but there's no reason for the nickname. It's just a stupid
nickname. Absolutely not. So we got 3 years here until our next review, which I'm sure will be our meatiest one. And the first thing we note here is she played Joyce in Queen, which is a pretty famous miniseries with Halle Berry there in the early to mid 90s. I don't remember a character in it at all, but I just remember that show being a big part of Halle Berry's career.
It was by the author of Roots, Axel Haley, so it was another historical drama.
Yep.
Crossover with Munson's Halle Berry and Dennis Haysbert, and he had a significant supporting role in there. But like you say, after a while, like it is a very long thing, so you're kind of taken back just keeping up with all the history versus paying attention to the performances in it.
Agree with that. Class of 61, period piece, played Sarah alongside Laura Linney. I remember covering this on the Laura Linney episode.
Yeah.
Civil War drama.
West Point classmates.
Where I Live was her first big TV show. So, I mean, she's done a ton of TV over the years, but this is the one, 21 episodes in 93. Outside of the show, she has 65 TV credits on her IMDb profile, which is pretty wild. I mean, we've seen actors pile them up, but some of the ones that we won't even really talk about, but Your Honor, The Good Fight, Grace and Frankie, Blackish, Chicago PD, Scandal, Grey's Anatomy, NCIS, Numbers, ER, The Closer, Judging Amy, and Frasier. Any of those that stood out to you specifically, Cam?
I do vaguely recall the Frasier one. I think she was one of the many call-in voices, and it was just kind of another, just like any guest star, just someone saying some crazy material that the character can't possibly have an answer for in 1 hour. I definitely think she finally hits gold with Any Day Now. I got recommended to this show when Dinna Geek covered a lot of progressive shows that were ahead of their time, and they mentioned how this one was not only probably her most significant role, but kind of like in the heat of the night, it brought up questions on the racial divide, and Toussaint got some pretty good acclaim for this, along with 80s comedic star Annie Potts. It had no business being a good show to see who was producing it, by Aaron Spelling's company. He's known for generally trashy material, and yet this is like something completely different from that. And it's still, I think, on YouTube and on a lot of antenna channels, and it's not too dated, which is so surprising because most shows like this you would think would date horribly.
She did that show from 98 to 2002, 88 episodes. So I think that is by far her most prolific recurring character over the years.
And she got a lot to just wiggle room to stretch the role. She was able to do a little light comedy and serious drama. It helped that basically they were just clerks at like a legal office, but it wasn't about who's going to win a case. It's just about what do you do in your off time in Birmingham, Alabama.
Woo. I was about to say another callback to Birmingham here, baby. Let's go.
Yeah.
The crossovers continue.
That's right.
Let's get into largest audience gap, which is her brief role in Dangerous Minds as Irene from 1995. But this movie is, just an experience, and James has it.
Brief is maybe even overselling her role.
One scene. She's in and out.
Literally one scene, yeah.
So Dangerous Minds came out in 1995. It's got a 34% critic score, a 64% audience score. And watching it today, it's clearly a film that wants to be inspiring, but is really a formulaic and misguided attempt at addressing complex social issues, which I know is surprising for Hollywood to do something like that. It is directed by John N. Smith, and it's actually based off of a book of the real-life experiences of a teacher by the name of Lou Ann Johnson. The movie stars Michelle Pfeiffer as Lou Ann Johnson, who's a former Marine who takes on the challenge of teaching a group of at-risk students in a rough inner-city school that is clearly in a beautiful suburb. When you watch it, you're like, oh, this is supposed to be tough, and it's like such a nice area. That's fine.
It's not so bad. Yeah.
So right from the opening scene, you get Coolio's iconic Gangster's Paradise.
Mm-hmm.
It is clear this movie wants to make a statement. Unfortunately, the statement it ends up making is shallow at best and problematic at worst. It is probably the shining example of the white savior trope.
Mm-hmm.
It positions Pfeiffer's character as an enlightened outsider who swoops in to rescue her students, who are primarily Black and Latino teens, but she's rescuing them from their own lives, some of which don't need rescuing. I'll say this, the acting is not bad. I think Michelle Pfeiffer gives a pretty solid performance with the material she's working with, considering the script gives her very little to work with beyond a series of cliches. Like, some of them are like laugh out loud funny. Like on day 2, she wears a leather jacket to be more relatable. She tries to teach them poetry via Bob Dylan lyrics, which the actual Luann Johnson came out and said that's not what happened. I was using modern day rap lyrics to teach poetry, which makes more sense in context. But my personal favorite is when she is trying to teach them how to identify verbs, and the sentence she writes on the chalkboard is "never shoot a homeboy." Great. Just couldn't be more on the nose.
Attention, James. It's about getting their attention.
Yeah, it works, let me tell you. She also tries to entice the students to get good grades by offering them dinner with her, which is probably illegal. And then she brings them on a field trip with no permission slips or approval from the school, which is definitely illegal.
Yeah, it could definitely be a suspension.
Yeah, of course, no question. So the gimmicks in the movie, like, while they're presented as convincing, they're very unconvincing to the audience. They're also condescending. The idea that, like, a few pop culture references and tough love attitude is all it takes to transform a classroom of underserved teens, like, really reduces both the students and their struggles to just like straight up plot devices.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, what's missing from this movie is any form of nuance. The educational system is complex. The challenges faced by marginalized students can't really be solved with candy bars.
Mm-hmm.
But the film kind of glosses over that in favor of a couple feel-good moments that don't feel authentic. Wants to be hard-hitting and heartwarming, but at the same time, it feels kind of like an after-school special that's insincere.
That's kind of what I felt.
That being said, it was a massive success. Like, massive to the point where Michelle Pfeiffer is in a Coolio music video. Like, it made almost $180 million at the box office, which in 1995 is crazy. It even had a spin-off TV show.
Yes.
It was so successful that it had such an impact on pop culture that Lorraine Toussaint considers this movie something that she's, quote, known for. And she's in the movie for a total of 1 minute and 26 seconds. I timed it. She shows up at 1 hour and 11 minutes in, and by 12 minutes and 26 seconds, you never see her again.
It is wild how it's a Jerry Bruckheimer production, and yet, like you say, it feels kind of like leftovers, Stand and Deliver and Lean on Me instead of in its own thing.
For the writer of the story to come out and be like, hey, this is not like what happened. It's just so clearly ham-fisted by a production company. And
Yeah.
I'm a Navy SEAL turned teacher.
yeah, it's just not what the real world is like. So I'm like firmly on the critic side here. What I'll say is Gangster's Paradise like dominated that time period. Coolio was everywhere. He was getting mocked by Weird Al Yankovic. Like, you couldn't be anywhere without hearing that song, to the point where I'm trying to think if it's the first rap song I like really locked in on and was like, man, this is cool. It might be. I might have Coolio to blame for my affinity for rap music, but this movie is not. It is not aged well enough. But yeah, there's some plot points I thought I wanted to cover before I pass it to you guys. One, I was disappointed that the iconic turn the chair around to get real with the student moment isn't actually in the movie. It's only in the Coolio music video.
What?
Yeah, it's not in the movie.
It's not in the movie?
No, it's not.
No.
I like it even less now.
She's also like clearly sexually harassed 5 minutes into walking into that class. Like,
Yeah.
Doesn't she like get out a log and hit someone, or is that in the trailer as well?
she like pretends she's going to hit someone because she knows karate. And so it's her way of like getting their attention.
That's what it was. Yeah.
How she builds rapport.
Yeah.
Physical combat. James, are we allowed now to hear from the teacher? Because I really want to hear from the teacher about why he built his career, a philosophy of pedagogy on this movie, because I've been waiting for it.
I mean, this probably altered Aubrey's life entirely. This is the reason he got into teaching.
I have complicated feelings about this movie. I'll open with, I don't really disagree with much of what James said. I like this movie, though. I watched it today. I still like this movie. I've kind of always liked this movie. So I gave up a long time ago on movies about education being even close to accurate. Because, like, the day-to-day of what goes on in a classroom is not cinematic. So it's like, none of this stuff happens.
No.
To say what she does is illegal, even in the 90s, is, I would say, an understatement, because she doesn't just entice them by offering them dinner with her. She legitimately goes on what is a date with a student.
Yeah.
And it's bizarre.
Odd for teacher, baby.
It's odd. There's parts of this movie that that are just unforgivable. There's a couple elements of it that I struggle with from like a critical standpoint. I think what they were going for like a inspirational educational story, I think they more or less land. What Michelle Pfeiffer's trying to do is find creative ways in a broken system to get kids motivated to do stuff they wouldn't normally do, right? And they're extreme because it's a movie. And so I kind of forgive the movie for that because the sentiment seems to be in the right spot. That is functionally what I do, is I find engaging ways to get these kids to do stuff in the classroom that they wouldn't normally do. I think using Bob Dylan, I think that's hilarious.
Yeah, bro. These kids.
I didn't know who Bob Dylan was until January when I watched A Complete Unknown.
She printed out the lyrics to Public Enemy's 911 as a joke in the form of a poem. So she actually presented a rap song as a poem. Screenwriters thought Bob Dylan was more interesting, so they changed it.
Couldn't whitewash that story harder.
Yes.
This actually leads to one of the things that I have really complicated feelings on, the white savior trope. On one hand, I understand it as a criticism, and I agree with it in some instances. On another hand, it's almost handicapping or short shrifting something that does need to happen.
Sure.
White people go into schools like this all of the time and do the thing that Michelle Pfeiffer is trying to do. While I make fun of freedom writers and this movie specifically, because I work with so many white women that do feel like their main life goal was created because of these movies, and it is funny, it is a thing. I struggle, and this isn't a pushback on you, James. I've literally been thinking about this all day. I struggle with, is this a white savior movie or not? And I struggle with it because while she does try to solve some of their problems, quote unquote, or plot wise, one of them she's right about, the girl being pregnant and being sent to the alternative school. She's right about that.
For sure.
Yeah.
Some of the other stuff is just misguided, which I think the movie shows. Like, you don't really know what you're talking about. And so when it's kept in an educational space, I find that to be justifiable. Where the movie fails this test is that maybe the only adult black character is wildly incompetent. And it's the principal of the school.
Oh, Courtney B. Vance.
Courtney B. Vance, yeah.
Yeah, it was wildly incompetent, and even causes, like, the direct cause of a student's death. I feel like that is really bad optically. And like, I think the Bob Dylan thing and the Public Enemy thing is a perfect example of what I'm torn about, because Freedom Writers did this. She brings in a Tupac song, and they do that whole bit.
Right.
It feels gross. So if she brings in the Public Enemy song, does it feel better?
If it's a true story, I guess yeah.
I'm sure it was less corny than it was presented on film.
I think you've hit on some good points, Aubrey. Yeah.
I say this respectfully. I've been around a lot of white people who've tried to talk to me about rap music. It's probably just as corny as you think it is.
For sure.
I think you're onto it, though. It's like good intention. It's just they're doing like a weaker example of how to get that across. Like they're going for like the lowest common, like ignorant, white person going around sharing this music and not make like halfway from making the proper point.
It's entertaining and problematic. And like, as long as you're like, whatever, I'm going along for the ride, you enjoy it. That's why it was such a hit that it was.
I mean, if you show this to like a college freshman right now, their head would explode. The only defense I'll lob to this movie is that those kids were bused from a bad neighborhood to a nice neighborhood.
Oh, right. They were the academy class or something, right?
Yeah, that's what it was, which I also think if this movie was really trying to be good, there's something to be said there. But she does get sexually harassed within seconds, and that continues almost the entire movie, which I find outrageous that just was where we decided to go with this.
And like you say, it paints more stereotypes that kind of take away from what it's trying to do right. It's like, but then it's like, imagine if you had a wonderful medic helping you out, but then he keeps unintentionally rubbing dirt on your wounds. It's like, okay, you're doing just as much bad as good.
Not helping one bit.
They got that storyline because in her book, she told a story how she confronted one of the students that threw a dictionary at her. The screenwriter somehow turned it into she was going to get sexually assaulted as a teacher. And she's like, yeah, that never happened. Her students hated this movie.
Well, they should. The most egregious example of them changing something that didn't happen is the kid that dies at the end doesn't die.
Completely unnecessary plot device.
It's why I want to have a nuanced conversation around white savior movies just in general, but you can't really do that with this movie because they literally place that kid's death at the feet of the only predominant black adult in the movie, who is also the principal of the school, which is also in and of itself a feat. To say, like, this white woman understands this situation so much better than that black guy, and this kid who didn't really die dies because of him, it takes away any goodwill that you could give this movie because it's so terrible of a thing to do.
I think we can leave the Dangerous Minds conversation saying it needed more Lorraine Toussaint, and then maybe it would have been better. 1996, one project to talk about before highest critic score, and that is If These Walls Could Talk. She played Shameeka. It is a movie about abortion. I queued this up at, 10:30 at night, and about 20 minutes in, Christina said, why did you make me watch this awful story? And I said, yeah, that's my bad. I'm sorry. Oops.
Yes.
Yeah. It's a TV movie with Cher and a lot of really great actresses, and it's like 3 different decades talking about abortion up from like the 30s through the 80s. And so it's an interesting TV movie to watch.
HBO.
Yeah, it's an HBO movie. She's in the third story. She plays one of the nurses at the clinic. I wasn't really sure what I was getting myself into. All right, Case. We're going to continue down our featured review path where Lorraine Toussaint is in some odd projects. You know, we just talked about review where she's in one scene. Now we're going to talk about her highest critic score, 100%, which is also just a TV movie. And that's Nightjohn from 1996, where she plays Dealey. Big role, though.
Huge role.
She's in this a lot.
Yeah, she is. Yeah, Nightjohn is a 1996 made-for-TV movie which aired on the Disney Channel.
Yeah.
Which was kind of a head-scratcher for me because this is not the kind of movie that Disney had going on in the 90s.
No.
It was much more of a HBO movie or maybe even like a PBS movie. Basically a platform that wanted to take on heavier content, and I just did not view Disney as such. That being said, the film is about a young slave girl named Sarnie, played by Allison Jones, who lives a hopeless life on a southern plantation, owned and operated by Khalil Walker, played by Beau Bridges. Her job is to take care of the family son. She's taught how to read by a fellow slave named John. And this ultimately gets her in trouble within the house because on plantations, slaves were punished if it was discovered that they knew how to read or were educated.
Yeah.
It is later discovered that Sarnie knows how to read, and she has used that against her slave master and his wife. As a result, the wife ordered her to be sold immediately before she could alert her husband that she had been having an affair with the town doctor. Toussaint plays Dealey, who is basically the surrogate mother to Sarnie, whose birth mother had been sold years ago, separating them. Sarnie's mom entrusted Dealey to look after her daughter, a duty she took very seriously. Toussaint is very good in a motherly role. She's one of the slaves that works in the house for the mother, and she is constantly having to go between two worlds. That asks a lot of her character, and I think Toussaint does a very good job in that dual role. This is a tough movie to watch, and not just because it's on 360p on YouTube, so when people are talking, you can't actually see their mouths moving. It's very difficult. But I found it tough to watch because I can't tell if it's any good. It's far too heavy of a story to tell on a made-for-TV PG rating, and it's based on a novel that came out in 1993, which was written by a author who was known mostly for young adult literature. So I can't tell how deep the story's trying to go. I thought She was very good in her character.
Eddie. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
She covered a lot of range. Here are a couple of other actor notes, though. Allison Jones, who played the main character, was a young child actor, and I was disappointed. She only had one other credit on her resume after this. I thought she was very good in her role.
Yeah.
And then finally, I've come to the conclusion Bill Cobbs has played an old man in every movie throughout his entire career.
Everything. Yeah.
Legend Bill Cobb.
I love that dude. And I saw him come on, I'm like, let's go. And then I'm thinking to myself, this movie's 30 years ago. And not only does he look the same now, it's also impressive that 30 years ago he looked old. So bravo to you, sir. You are a national treasure. He's fantastic. But I thought the movie was fine. I think a movie of this weight and dealing with such heavy and serious tones as this movie probably requires a heavier script. But again, with it being a young adult novel, yeah. I don't know how heavy it got in the first place. But she's good, and I enjoyed watching her in it.
The last time Disney gets that experimental, where it's like, okay, let's just go back to doing music videos that are feature length.
Yeah, this did not feel like a Disney project in the slightest.
Yeah.
Nightjohn, played by Carl Lumley, which, if you don't know Carl, he plays Isaiah Bradley in the Marvel Universe. Mm-hmm. So I thought that was an interesting connection. I was like, oh, I know him. She's a steady force in this movie. Like, she's just very competent actor, very steady, like reliable. You get exactly what you needed out of her in this role.
Yep.
Is it 100%? No, I don't think so.
No.
But it's a perfectly good TV movie. It's probably somewhere in the 60s. Like, tells a good story. Beau Bridges is a good actor. Bill Cobb's a good actor. Like, I think everybody does their jobs well. But 100% is a little out of pocket, to be honest. All right. Well, thanks, Case. Appreciate the night, John.
Yeah, man.
We got a long time until our last review, so 96 to 2018, right through the millennium. The first one is The Cherokee Kid. She plays Mama Turner. I mentioned before we started recording, there was a movie I rented that I watched about half of it.
Oh, no.
The Prime 24 hours you get, once you start it, you got to finish it. It ran out. And I actually wanted to finish The Cherokee Kid, not because it's a great movie, but because it's like tonally different than a lot of the other stuff she's done with Sinbad, but pretty sure she died very early in the movie, so I don't think I missed any other Lorraine Toussaint scenes. Somebody who maybe has seen this whole thing could tell me if I'm wrong, but I'm here to listen.
Kyle, this is a Sinbad movie, right? Like, he's the star.
He is the star. He is the Cherokee Kid.
I saw that she was later on a sitcom he did, and she got to be in like the first episode, so I guess you could say it's one of many collaborations.
Ernie Hudson's in this. Burt Reynolds is in this. Back to Burt.
Dang.
Making another appearance.
Oh, there you go.
Sinbad plays literally a bumbling idiot who ends up getting trained to be the Cherokee Kid. The movie starts with him getting shot in a one-on-one standoff. Yeah, that's the Cherokee Kid. Black Dog, alongside Tobo, Avery. I know we got some Black Dog fans on this podcast.
Back to Toboblowski. Yep.
Last time Cam was here, I reviewed this movie.
Yeah.
And it's like dumb and cheesy, but fun. Is how I describe it. It's like good 90s action cheese. I think my biggest complaint is some of the like obvious goofs that happen with some of the special effects. But it's like well documented that they were just a true disaster of a special effects team. But yeah, this movie's good. And she plays like the head no-nonsense FBI agent that Tobolowski's like more in touch with his feelings, smart, non-alpha male FBI agent really rubs the wrong way because the rest of the people in the FBI are like tough militant people and she's got them all in line and he's the one that kind of annoys her and rubs her the wrong way because he's different. It's a pretty substantial role, but it also is like something I think she's really hones in on in her career of being the authority figure because she does it very well.
Yeah, authority figures and motherly figures.
Authority mother.
I find that she plays a lot and she plays it well.
Oh, yes, she does.
Especially in the latter half of her career, we'll talk about. Like, I was like, oh, she plays his mom in that. She plays his mom in that. Like, she know your lane, right? Like, you're crushing it. Crossing Jordan, Dr. Chomp's 12 episodes of that from 2002 to 2003. I've never seen Crossing Jordan, but I know it's a show that people like in the early 2000s.
As a precursor to Bones.
Okay.
Like many shows in late 90s early 2000s. It was hard to keep up with TV at that point because, kind of like music, everything was just looking like a variation on what you were already engaged with. And she joined the second cast for that and got to be one of the medical tech gals who kind of had a off-color sense of humor. A little range there.
That's why we bring you in to talk about these cult projects, Cam. You've seen this stuff, so I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Another crossover with Halle Berry and Their Eyes Were Watching God as Pearl in 2005.
Yep.
TV movie.
Yep.
Saving Grace to go to Holly Hunter, right?
Yep. She was like the captain of the town, but yeah, fellow Munson, Holly Hunter.
Yep. 44 episodes of that. That's a long run, 2007, 2010. Kate Perry. Maybe as cool as Katy Perry. I don't know. Who's to say? Who's to say? Love Holly Hunter. She's fantastic. So I think it goes to show we're all the way to 2010, and she's playing 20 episodes, 30 episodes, 40 episodes, 88 any day now. Like, she is doing long runs.
Yeah.
Especially with, like, you know, just more consistency with your schedule at that point in time. Consistent paycheck. Yeah, you're not in the big box office smashes. And who knows if, one, was she getting offered those roles? I don't know, right? Was she auditioning for those roles? I don't know. I just know her career took her in a particular direction that, you know, people who've seen those things probably love.
Yeah.
Ugly Betty, 2007, 6 episodes of that show.
I take it we got some Friday Night Light fans here.
Yeah, I'm interested in Aubrey's take of her as Bird Merriweather in 6 episodes from 2009 to 2011, or if he remembers her.
Respectfully, I do not. Been a few years since I watched Friday Night Lights. I do know from the time period, so I went and looked on this to kind of check to make sure. I'm pretty sure she's Journey Smollett's character, her mother, I think.
I think so.
Journey's character is super interesting. It has a lot going on at the back half of that show. So I'm sure because of the way that show works out, that Lorraine Toussaint had a lot to do at times.
Yeah.
Some real heavy emotional stuff because Journey, she was bipolar.
Yes.
And so it was a lot of real, like, weighty emotional scenes. So if I'm correct, which I'm pretty sure I am, because I don't know what else she would do in that show, that's kind of probably what you'll get a lot of the same stuff that you got from her throughout her career.
Mm-hmm.
From what little I've seen of it, it was one of those is like if you missed one episode, you were lost. You had to be like watching a good chunk of it because there's going to be like 6 subplots, you know, per episode.
Gotta watch them all.
Okay. I didn't get a chance to rewatch this movie, The Soloist from 2009. I remember liking it. She plays Flo in there with Robert Downey Jr. and Jamie Foxx. It just feels like one of those movies where, like, years later, you're like, I don't know if this has aged well, but somebody could tell me differently if they've seen it recently or remember her character.
I can tell you because I watched it today.
Ooh.
Yeah.
This movie falls in line with a similar conversation or a similar thought process I was having around Dangerous Minds. Like, is this not similar in how problematic it is? And then that leads into the greater conversation of, like, is this problematic because it, you know, in some way it actually happened. I think the movie is solid. It's solid because Fox is incredible. Arguably one of the most talented people I've just ever seen do anything. He really eats this up. I'm not going to lie. I'm a Robert Downey Jr. fan, and I struggled with him at first because that, like, kind of fast-talking Robert Downey Jr. thing doesn't really work at first. But once Jamie Foxx shows up, this movie kind of takes off as good as it's going to be. She's in it for not very long.
She's like the sister of Jamie, right?
She's either the sister or the mom. I'm going to be honest with you, I can't remember. I thought it was the mom.
I think she's the sister they brought in.
Could be that. She's not in it very much. It's a rather inconsequential role.
She's like 10th build or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
A couple scenes, I would imagine.
Like you noted, it is one of those, it's feel good, but like you're saying, it does unfortunately enter the white savior complex. And Steve Lopez, why don't you just cast someone who could be a Steve Lopez? You know? I like you, Robert, but what the hell?
That was something that jumped out at me.
Yeah, that's what I remember.
You're not here to see any, like, real nuanced and complex look into mental health, the homelessness crisis. You're not in it for any of that.
Yeah.
Because that kind of stuff all felt shortchanged to me. You're in it for Jamie Foxx, who is legitimately one of the most talented humans, I think, alive.
Guy?
Yes.
Basically, the music covers.
Aubrey, your struggles with kind of the white savior trope kind of echo the sentiment that Lorraine Toussaint has mentioned in her political views, where it's like, hey, the feminist movement is good. We've made a lot of progress, but there's nuance and complexity to this as it comes to what Black women can offer and how they should have a seat at the table for some of these discussions. And even in the nonprofit world, it is a topic that people struggle with. And so, yeah, there's definitely a lot to read and discuss. And it's interesting because the person we're covering has similar struggles with it that you're mentioning yourself.
I think it's one of those time and place things. I thought a lot about the conversation around black or white that we kind of had last time. It's a time and place thing for me. These movies are useful to some people.
Yeah.
If it becomes a thing where Dangerous Minds is the way you look at how those interactions should be, now I feel like we've gotten to a place where it's really bad.
Mm-hmm.
But there is a time and place. Like certain movies reach certain people, and as long as everyone's being reached with a solid message, I don't see why they can't all exist.
Yep.
I think the problem ultimately is something that was born out of good intentions, which was the kind of exposure of this trope has been kind of bastardized in our modern culture because we can't approach anything with nuance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so all of these things require nuance and critical thought, and it's not happening. So every movie where a white person helps a person of color ends up being this thing, and it's odd to me.
Movies with nuance die in the film festival circuit. That's what happens.
Oh, absolutely. I mean,
Yeah.
it's definitely mismarketing, hiring filmmakers who are just coming at everything too melodramatically or not doing enough research, and then audiences not knowing what they want out of it.
Let's go to the role that I guess outside of like Orange is the New Black, like from a film perspective, has got her the most awards love, and that's an ISA nomination for her role as Ruth in Middle of Nowhere. Speaking of good filmmakers, Ava DuVernay, we talked about her a lot on the Andre Holland episode.
Yes.
And this is it's a relationship drama having to do with prison.
Yeah.
And it's melodramatic. Like there's definitely that element to it. I mean, she's good in this dramatic role, for sure.
I saw this when this first premiered on Turner Classic Movies. I am not making that up.
TCM, all right. Getting after it.
Yeah, it premiered 3 years later, and I'm like, well-deserved. Because like you're saying, this could easily be a haphazard, soapy drama, and yet somehow it's well-framed. It really gets you into this atypical material and invites you to go on all the flashbacks without feeling over-stylized. And Ava, I think the reason she's one of my favorite filmmakers today is she just knows how to find the truth in the drama. The performances by Omari Hardwick as the imprisoned love interest. David Oyelowo is also good as the character Brian, the bus driver who starts this love triangle. So it just kind of it's a good just parallel for how you got to move on after all the tragedy, after all your close relationships. You got to cut jealousy and hatred out of your heart. That's what I took away from it the most.
Reviews that I read about this movie credit this to getting her into Orange is the New Black, and this is a big breakout role for her.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I mean, this is the first time in her career on the film side she started to gather some critic attention for this role. And she earns it. I mean, she bodies her. She is angry as shit in those roles and very dramatically stern, and you could see where the Juilliard chops come from.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, she gets after it in this.
Mm-hmm.
It's nice to have her in this. That consistency, that steadiness is needed because, Omari Hardwick is good in this, and there's good performances being given, but there's no one that really has the weight that she kind of has and can bring.
Yep, I agree.
It's really nice to have her in this. I think this movie's great. I don't think that's a surprise to anybody that I would love this movie. All I'm really going to say is Bradford Young is the GOAT. I love him as a cinematographer. This movie is absolutely beautiful.
Yes.
I think Ava is a genius.
Mm-hmm.
And if you take anything away from any of the podcasts that have ever been said by me, it's that Michelle Williams is the greatest actor of all time and that you should watch Ava DuVernay movies because she is, at this point, outrageously underrated.
Yeah.
Finding the truth is a great way to describe it, but I also would say it's an understatement. Good directors can pull out an emotion. Great directors can pull out the complexity of multiple emotions, and Ava DuVernay does that all throughout this movie.
Told you you'd love it.
Yeah.
One of many collaborations we're going to see with the two.
It's just great. Just watch Ava DuVernay movies, please.
Except for Wrinkle in Time. But everything else, watch it.
Yeah, that I don't count that.
Back to the soap route with Young and the Restless. Dr. Watkins, 2012 to 2014, 11 episodes of that. Some more steady television work.
That same year, I did see the political satire that Lorraine is in, Knife Fight.
Okay.
This is blasted on critics, but pretty high on festival and user scores. I actually kind of dug this. This was a political satire with Rob Lowe as a political strategist deciding if he should run for governor or not. This goes above being just what could have easily just been a ho-hum stage play and just brings in kind of like every kind of underdog story. How badly do you want it? And are you going to cross your own ethics just getting into the dark world of politics? And I definitely remember her, Richard Schiff, and Julie Bowen scenes. They were kind of good, just talking over his shoulder saying, are you sure you want to do this? There's no saying no once you get into politics and go deeper down the rabbit hole.
Rob Lowe is however you describe his character makes 100% sense as to the type of character he would play. Second episode in a row, we've talked about Selma. She played Amelia Boynton Robinson alongside Andre Holland and Tim Roth, 2014.
Yeah.
She comes out of nowhere and just drops an absolute banger of a monologue. It's like, oh, okay, I see you, Lorraine.
Mm-hmm.
Very important character to the story of Selma.
Mm-hmm.
In real life, Amelia Boynton Robinson is the one that invited Martin Luther King to Selma to help with the issues that they were having getting voters registered.
Mm-hmm.
In the actual march, in real life, Amelia Boynton Robinson is the person that got knocked unconscious, and they have that iconic photo of her in the street that was sent all over the world. So in this story, outside of the main players that everybody's used to, she's like the most important person historically.
The main organizer, Voting Rights Act, and even co-founded the Dallas County Voters League. I did hear an interview recently on Conan O'Brien's podcast where David was on, and he did discuss how, there was rumors spreading that there might be some, shitheads probably opening fire in protest for the movie. And he just said, you know what? I can't live with myself if none of us take on this important story. And, if there's any assholes disrupting our filming, that just says more about them. Why should it prevent us from telling an important story?
Absolutely.
Kudos to everyone just having the courage to tell this, especially how chaotic things are now. Again, just get to the heart of the matter. I couldn't find anything about what the real life Robinson thought about the portrayal. I know she passed shortly a year after.
She passed away at 104 years old.
Oh, that's a good run.
And they spread her ashes, Kyle, in the Alabama River right across the street.
Really? No kidding.
I have a feeling it was viewed favorably because she was outspoken enough that if she or her people didn't like it, I think something would have surfaced with her disappointed.
Pre-release, yeah.
I would be willing to bet with the reverence that Lorraine Toussaint has for all of her characters, I have a feeling she did a really good job in this role.
I mean, it's a good fit. A stern individual played by generally stern portrayal.
Yeah.
Kind of like other big historical epics like Lincoln. Even though you know the outcome, it still keeps you in suspense with all the turnarounds and attention to detail and laying it out instead of just being a, well-acted History Channel movie. It really is cinematic.
Fantastic. Those are two movies that we both, in the past 3 episodes, have been like, it's some of the greatest historical movies ever put on screen.
It's up there somewhere.
Lincoln and Selma are incredible. The big one I think probably put everybody onto her was Orange is the New Black, season 2, if I remember correctly. She plays V alongside Natasha Lyonne, 12 episodes. I mean, her character's a fucking piece of work, piece of shit, and that's right. I just remember, when I thought of Lorraine Toussaint, that's the first thing that came to mind was her role as V in Orange is the New Black.
I'm the worst. I fucking hate this show.
Well, James, I think, has a retread opinion on this too.
I remember liking it when it came out, and I remember it was this huge success. And then I rewatched the first and second season, and I was just like, the show's not good. Kind of do like a deep dive into why it was so successful. And my initial thoughts are it's telling a partially true and very unique story. Not a lot of prison stories focus on women's prisons, and it was kind of shining a light on, we know the correctional system sucks, but it's always from a man's perspective. And it's like, yeah, it also really sucks for women also. And they're taken advantage of in different ways compared to the men. So I get that. They also show like a lot of different experiences and cultures and how people end up in prison. But like the story itself just isn't that good.
It's definitely validating a lot of crowds. And I'm going to give it that. It's just 1 minute it was trying to go into like Oz territory. Then the next minute it was like dark comedy. And
yeah,
I just could not keep up with any of the storylines.
It's interesting. It's got a ton. I mean, you look at 2014 to 2020, there's like so many Emmy noms for the show.
It's beloved.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, dude, like it was huge.
I wasn't a big fan of this.
She didn't get any Emmys, though. Just pointing that out. She was not nominated for any.
Yeah, and I think she was great in her role. I think she plays a good bad guy. She doesn't explore that a lot. She explores the authority figure a lot. And she's a mother again in this, but she plays a bad guy. And she did it so well that, she talks about how it kind of impacted how fans treated her. And she's like, yeah, I'm not a huge fan of playing bad guys because everyone really fucking hates my character.
Yeah, she sucked. Those of us who watched season 2 were when she got ran over in the last episode, we were like, yeah, hell yeah, let's go. Deserved, well deserved.
I mean, I like that it shows that some people end up in prison due to, they're in a tough circumstance. They're not, nature versus nurture. They're not really given a chance to succeed, and they got to make a tough decision.
Mm-hmm.
Other people get screwed by the system, and then some people are like not playing with a full deck of cards and really need to be caged in because like they're just not operating on the same plane as everyone else. And I thought that was fascinating from a woman's perspective.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
It was like a set of vignettes. It's like, here's a story, and here's a story, and here's a story. And all these women get lunch together every day. I'm like, all right, like what are we going for here?
Little did people know they were coming to hear us just, in retrospect, trash Orange is the New Black and say it's mid at best.
But the second season I liked because they kind of move away from Piper as the main character, and it's because of Lorraine Toussaint's bad guy, and I did like that. But yeah, some of you guys I just like stopped watching and stopped caring.
I hadn't thought about this show in years until prepping for this, and I was like, oh yeah, Orange is the New Black. It was like all the rage. Not anymore. The next year, she's in The Night Before as Mrs. Roberts alongside JGL and Anthony Mackie. I don't remember her character.
Crossovers with Munsons.
This movie sucks, and she's in it for like 2 minutes.
Okay, good. So it's good I didn't
Anthony Mackie's mom, and they have dinner at her house. Seth Rogen is really funny in this movie. And this scene he's really funny in. Because he's high on
he's high of his mind, right?
Third combination of drugs, so he's trying to have like a dinner with his friend's mom.
Yeah. While
he has Mindy Kaling's phone and he's getting sent dick pics.
That's right.
And he's like having this internal struggle if he's gay or not. So ultimately, her scene is the funniest scene, but it's not because of her. She's just kind of in it.
I like this movie, and it's because it's fucking stupid. And
at least it's not Hudson Hawk.
Yeah, it's Anthony Mackie's, one of his character tropes is that he's the one friend who like became a professional athlete, but his best friends are like kind of calling him out on, it's like, hey man, you got like way more athletic when you turn 30. That doesn't really happen. Like, and they're pretty much just coaching it out of him that he's clearly on steroids. And he's like, I just can't tell my mom. She's gonna be pissed. And his mom's Lorraine Toussaint.
Okay, there we go. Rosewood, 2015 to 2017, 44 episodes of that. So again, another big show. I believe she plays Morris Chestnut's mom in this, if I remember correctly.
Shout out to Morris Chestnut.
I only saw most of this because I did a lot of crossovers with Bones, and it was just Fox getting desperate because neither show had anything in common. But it was a watchable noirish detective thing.
Okay, love it. You heard it here first.
I do applaud the episode she does at Blackish where she plays Anthony Anderson's aunt who his mother can't stand, and it's allows for a lot of what the show usually does: political satire meets black sitcom tropes. But what is really awesome about Kenya Barris's style is he does such a self-aware kind of reflecting style while also doing a cool homage to the kind of sitcom that would have been popular in the 80s and 90s. Everybody just has such good chemistry on this show, I think. But it was cool that she got to guest star on that, because it actually, kind of like her opinion pieces, it did have a lot to say.
Yeah, every clip I've seen of Blackish, it seems interesting.
Yeah, it's a lot to dive into.
Does anybody know how she appears as herself in Girls Trip from 2017? Obviously a huge hit.
That's what I was trying to remember. I'm like, I remember Mike Coulter's cameo, but yeah.
I couldn't remember it either.
That's a cultural touch point when you play yourself in a movie of that magnitude, right? Like, this has got to be a checkbox for her, but I just don't remember it.
Either.
This is working again with Kenya Barris, though, so that's good. But,
Do you think she got to write her own lines?
Seeing Kenya in an interview, probably. He likes to let everyone play around while still...
I hope.
In that movie, if you told me that they only shot that movie with half a script, I believe it. Not in a bad way. The movie's great.
It was definitely a Super Troopers Beverly Hills Cop, where it's like, we're giving you the outline, you decide how the scene ends. Yeah.
Yep.
Is that a Regina Hall movie?
Yep.
Yeah. Crossover with Munson.
Good pull. 2017, she got married to Michael Tomlinson. She was married for 2 years, married until 2019, had a daughter named Samara during that time. So I have seen her interviews where she said, like, being a mother is like the greatest thing that's ever happened to her. I'm looking at photos of Michael Tomlinson, and it looks like he could put on a red suit around Christmas time, and he'd fit right in if you're wondering what he might look like. So,
Okay.
He's got a real Santa-like beard going on.
Gotcha.
Call me crazy, but Google it yourself and you'll see.
Someone had to do it.
And there you go. All right, so last review of the night is Fast Color, its largest critic app. She plays Bo, media role featuring Google and Batha Raw. So we have not covered this movie in a long time, since I think episode like 17.
Yeah, since the Google episode. Yeah.
Yeah. Or whatever that was. So, and Aubrey has it.
Fast Color, 2018 film, written and directed by Julia Hart. It was also co-written by Jordan Horowitz. Stars Google and Batha Raw. Lorraine Toussaint plays a very big role in this movie.
Mm-hmm.
She's basically the main supporting actor, probably.
Yeah.
You have Google and Batha Raw's character, Ruth, is on the run after being in hiding for a long time because her supernatural powers have been discovered. And so she goes home to her family that she abandoned to try to figure out how to survive, I guess.
Yeah.
And Lorraine Toussaint is her mom, because she is everyone's mom in every movie and TV show. And she's there with what I guess is later revealed to be her granddaughter, Lila, which is Google and Batha Raw's daughter. They all have superpowers. This movie is fine at best. It has pretty good ratings. I don't really see it. I think of like Midnight Special, or a very worse comparison to something like Brightburn. These kind of non-superhero, super-powered movies type things.
On mainstream, yeah.
Basically, everything is a mystery. You know, you kind of just you meet Google and Batha Raw's character while she's on the run, and then she has a seizure, and there's an earthquake, and there's just kind of a lot of odd things happening, and the movie does nothing to explain these things for like an hour.
Nope.
I'm with you.
You got to give me something, man. You can't just keep asking questions or creating questions without ever answering them. And then in the final 20 minutes, you start answering questions, and it's like, see, look, it's all great, right? No, I stopped paying attention an hour ago.
Thank you.
I would have turned this movie off if she wasn't in it so much.
Yeah.
I like some of the stuff that they're trying to do once the family gets together. I like Google and Batha Raw as an actor much better than you guys did. I listened to that episode.
Don't worry. You're not alone. I do love Raw. Like you're saying, it is one of those, it's watchable, but it leaves you not wanting more because it's so underdeveloped with the plot twist.
You don't really get anywhere. Lorraine Toussaint's great. She pulls out a lot of emotion. She pulls out a lot of the emotion that the movie needs. What this movie needs is to be entertaining. and it's not.
Yeah.
I would say don't watch it.
358 split on Rotten Tomatoes. So
I'm with you. I liked it some better than those other ones you compared it to, but at the same time, it was like without these actors, without these intrusive effects, there's not really much going for it. It's just like, okay, I wonder if there's a director's cut of this because
just boring.
Yeah, that's a great point. Yeah,
boring. Like, I think Lorraine Toussaint might be the best part of the movie, to be honest. Like,
oh yeah,
she brings a lot to it, which is awesome to say that this late in her career, to say like she's the best part of a film that's pretty mediocre. I'm firmly with the audience here versus the critics. 83 for this is egregious.
Yeah, it's not an 83.
No.
It's a 40 or 50 or 60.
Yeah. Right at 50, right in that ballpark, right? Like, it's just straight down the middle. So, Aubrey, I was interested in your perspective because my opinion did not change one bit after seeing it the first time and being like, that's very mid, and nothing changed at all. I was like, okay, I'm glad I rewatched it for Lorraine, but other than that, I was good.
I don't think I've ever said this in reference to a movie, but this movie would have worked with like voiceover at the beginning explaining the setup.
More exposition.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you just give me some exposition at the beginning so I understand what world I'm in, it allows me to orient myself a little bit better and I can find the mystery around these characters more engaging. But to just like cold open is odd.
Yeah.
Well, and the fact that it never stops being a cold open, and you're like, so what am I looking for?
Yeah.
What am I looking for?
Yeah.
It's not a David Lynch movie where it's not meant to make sense. So what's going on?
Yep.
So she's in a movie with Azealia Banks called Love Beats Rhymes. I have not seen it, but it's not well rated.
An Azealia Banks movie, you don't say.
You said everything that needs to be said.
I was just like, that's just controversial. Why would you put her in a movie?
That is a 44 for the critics, 62 for the audience. On Loves Beats Rhymes.
Almond's in that, isn't he?
Common is, yeah, it looks like it.
Yes, he's in it.
Oh, makes me sad.
Well, that movie's directed by the RZA.
If I've learned anything, it's awful then. He's not good at making movies.
That's all you needed to hear, baby. It's the RZA. All right, well, let's move on to maybe some more positive vibes. Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark. Played Lulu 2019. It's Guillermo del Toro. You know, I feel like if you're a del Toro guy, then you probably enjoy Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark.
I enjoyed that movie a lot.
Very on his career, but this one just didn't deliver for me. I just was like, where are we going with the concept? She was pretty good in her scene.
Yeah.
It's just the dreary lighting and the way they introduced each story just took me out of it. But
yeah, it's like a 60. What is it, in the 60s or something like that?
It's got a decent rating.
No, it's in the 70s. 78, 72.
Her character is best summed up as she's basically the Tony Todd from Final Destination.
Oh, okay.
That's her role in this.
Basically.
I'm in.
Yeah.
She kind of tells you the rules. She tells you like why the situation's happening, and then she tells you how to win.
Okay.
And then it's just a matter of them going out and doing it. Her character is super important to the arc of this story, and she's creepy as hell.
I did see photos. Yeah.
My question was going to be, I haven't seen this. Should I watch it? And Case just answered my question. Yes, I should.
I liked it a lot. I thought it was really good.
Loved these books growing up.
You had me at Tony Todd.
On a TV show called Into the Badlands. I have not seen this because she's in the final season, and I only saw the first season. And
16 episodes. Yep, 16 episodes. I mean, she's done so much TV, man. Like,
she's done so much. How do you
Yes.
keep up?
She stays busy. She gets the paychecks, baby. She getting paid these days, let me tell you.
I mean, something to be said is to like having a consistent work schedule, right? As opposed to being like, I'm going to go spend 6 months in another country, and then I don't know if I'm going to work for another 2 years, as opposed to being like, yeah, once a week I go on set and we knock out an episode and good to go.
Especially as a mom.
Yeah.
I definitely think she does not wait for the phone to ring, but she definitely doesn't get roles just because she's available. Like she either has a really good booking staff or just picks one and says, you know, what's the worst that can happen?
Mm-hmm. Yep. Something new, something different. The next up is that money maker, the Glorias.
Money maker.
Alicia Vikander. So we haven't, again, another movie we haven't talked about in a while.
I did want to see it, but I just had never been able to find it on any streaming. Like, they'll take it down as soon as I'm about to watch it. I'm like, what is going on? It's got Janelle Monáe and Julianne Moore.
It's currently on Plex.
It's on Plex. Okay.
Another character named Flo, so that's cool, I guess.
That's exactly right, Kyle. That's where I was going to go with it.
Hello.
And this is about Gloria Steinem?
Steinem, yeah, based on her memoir.
I watched it when it was in the film festival circuit back in 2020, so I've seen it. I remember it being decent. It's like in the 6 range. It's a solid flick.
Right, 6, light 7.
Concrete Cowboy 2020, Nessie. I remember this was like a big Netflix movie where they brought in like all the black actors, right, to tell this all black story, if I remember correctly. That's Concrete Cowboy. Am I losing my mind on this one?
There's been some other ones, but I was literally doing, I kid you not, let's see how many Netflix movies I can watch in one day without tapping out. And this was one of many. I tapped out. It was very poorly shot, like just one of those shot cheaply in like Louisiana kind of movies. 2-week shoot, didn't make good use of its premise. It's a great premise. It's just like there's some urban real life cowboys, and they wasted a whole cast. I was totally let down.
I think this is during when Netflix was just churning out as much content as humanly possible as well.
We'll take a bid on it. We'll watch the movie later.
No. I remember liking it, but again, it's I don't remember much of the plot.
Who else in this movie?
Method Man and
Idris Elba.
I have seen this movie.
You've seen it.
Totally forgot. This movie's not bad. Not terrible, I don't think.
Really.
Decent. Yeah.
I mean, it's not something I would say you need to go watch.
Does she have a big role in it?
No, I don't remember her role being very big. Supporting character, probably.
I just kept waiting for some horse riding to happen. I was like, what's going on?
She's 3rd on IMDb, so that's wild.
But we learned earlier, Case, you can't trust IMDb billing because Nightjohn, she's the 2nd most important character. She's dead last. The Equalizer 2021, 2025, when you go to her, speaking of IMDb, when you go to her IMDb profile, the main thing you see at the top is Queen Latifah in a still from The Equalizer because she's in 74 episodes of this. If you keep track at home, there's been 74 episodes of The Equalizer, so she's one of, I think, 5 or 6 actors who's in every episode of the show.
Yeah.
So this seems like a pretty big deal for her.
I came in with open eyes. I was like, okay, they do reboots of everything. It's not going to be like the 80s show, and obviously it's not going to be badass like the Denzel Washington suspenseful dramas. And so this one, they decided, let's take the concept, but make it for the CSI and CIS crowd.
Yep, CBS.
Latifah was the main reason to watch. The story was formulaic. The acting and overall material was watchable. It was just one of those, there was just too much stuff coming out at this point. It lasted 5 seasons, and she had reasonable amount of time for the role she was given, playing the aunt who's caring for the main character's daughter while she's kicking everyone's ass. Other than that, it wasn't a must-see show.
It says something when you're in every episode of a 5-season show like that, right, as a supporting character.
To your point earlier, is like now she's being the best part of movies we otherwise would not watch. She's getting into voiceover territory. It's like, whoa, she's doing a voice on everything imaginable now.
Flexing her muscles, my friend.
I did applaud her on Your Honor. That was the Bryan Cranston show, which, long story short, had a cool premise, but Showtime didn't like it, so they canceled it before it had any time to shine. She got to play basically the judge, one of the other fellow judges who suspects that Bryan Cranston's character is taking a bribe or in over his head without knowing what he's truly up to. So reasonable amount of screen time for free episodes.
In case, I think you added the better sister as Catherine Lancaster, didn't you?
Oh, yeah. A new show on Prime.
Yeah.
Kind of a murder suspense show, and her character is awesome. Her character is her first female African-American billionaire, and she walks around and she talks like a boss. And she is awesome in that role. And what I like about her is that it's very different than anything I've seen from, like, she always has that commanding, in charge persona in her roles. And this one, it's like she's playing by different rules than everybody else. You know, she's maybe in 10%, 15% of the show, but her scenes hit hard.
She's in every episode up to this point.
Yep.
I've seen stills of this with Elizabeth Banks and Jessica Biel. I just didn't realize this is what that was.
It's very good.
I did see a full write-up on how it was it was created by a bunch of daughters who were related to famous TV producers and
Oh, really?
part of the Milch family, David Milch from Deadwood and NYPD Blue. But yeah, I did see a cool write-up on it, and they were just like, it's given Amazon a good name, and just come up with an atypical mystery show. Just do something with this unusual, premise. There's everything, finances, have it be something more than just who died,
If you've seen the HBO show The Undoing with Nicole Kidman and Hugh Grant, it has a very similar vibe to that show.
Okay.
To your point, Case, when I had my IMDb page up for her, when we first started, because I hadn't refreshed this in a while, The Better Sisters wasn't at the top. It was The Equalizer. And when I refreshed it about 30 minutes ago, The Better Sister popped up. So very recently it came on the radar. It went from Aubrey's category to in this part. So, originally was in Aubrey's What's Coming Next portal.
There you go.
Well, we've reached the mountaintop. Case, what do you got for top performances with somebody 120 credits and lots of movie and TV? And what do you got, man?
Well, I spent the better part of the first 45 minutes of our discussion searching for a list. And the only thing I can find, there's a list from 2014. So here's my proposal. And it's only 5 projects. And it's the 5 essential performances by Orange is the New Black standout, Lorraine Toussaint. And then I think we'll finish off with our own 5. We'll come up with the final 5.
It's just bad timing. Good list, bad timing.
It's old.
Okay.
So anything before 2014, and they're not in any order, and it is TV and movies.
Okay, well, that's a good list, though, to at least play with.
This is going to be laugh out loud funny, but Dangerous Minds is on that list.
No way.
Hell yeah. According to this article, it's an incredibly brief performance, but it was likely seen by a whole lot of people as Dangerous Mind was hugely promoted.
Told you.
Essential performance.
All right, real performance then, any day now.
If it's not on there, why are we even doing this? Shit.
Any day now is on there, yes.
All right. Yeah, I feel good about that guess. Middle of Nowhere. It's probably on there.
Middle of Nowhere. And it says, this is the important one. This is the breakout role that we all hoped would lead to many more great parts for Toussaint.
If These Walls Could Talk?
If These Walls Could Talk is not on there.
Okay.
One of them is a TV movie we briefly talked about. One of them we didn't talk about at all.
Oh, I like that. I bet it's Queen with Halle Berry.
It is not Queen with Halle Berry.
What?
Think of Richard Crenna, the co-star of Rambo.
Oh, okay. The Deadly Force thing.
Yes, A Case of Deadly Force.
It really should have been first major role. Okay, what's the one we didn't mention?
The one that we didn't talk about is The Fosters.
Fosters.
I did interview a cast member on that show, and I know it was basically pretty well liked because it wasn't soapy like the other shows that are on Freeform. So that says a lot.
Yeah.
I have to cast list. Terry Polo, Sherry Som.
Yeah.
I've never heard of this show. It's a long run, though.
A bonus one that they posted that we didn't talk about, and I remember it, but I don't remember her from it, was Point of No Return, which was the American remake of La Femme Nikita.
Oh,
Bridget Fonda. Yep.
yeah.
I almost watched that.
But I don't remember her in it.
Yeah, it was 94. I mean, this is a moment where I'm reminded that I used to watch a lot of La Femme Nikita back in the day when I was in a formative time of my life. So thanks for that reminder.
Oh, yeah.
This was your Charmed. Okay.
What do you guys propose to be a final 5? Things that we've talked about that sounded popular is Orange is New Black, Better Sister, Selma, Scary Tales to Tell in the Dark. We didn't talk about Rosewood, but I know she's got a big foot in that. The Equalizer.
I would definitely put Selma on there. I wouldn't put Rosewood on there. She's in every episode, but she doesn't have much to do in that one. I would put Your Honor probably on there. It was just a really good 3-episode arc. A lot of screen time.
Okay.
We're talking performances over movies. I say Fast Color.
Okay.
Yeah, if you're going performances, straight up Fast Color, she's very good. I put Orange is the New Black, Fast Color, Selma. I mean, those are all contenders for top 5 for sure.
Yeah, I would definitely have Better Sister in there as well.
Okay. That's good. Entry, at least in the 6 to 10 range. So I thought it was going to be harder to pull that together, but at least, going to modern day, there's a solid top 10 there. In there somewhere. Let's get into the Munson Meter. What we do, we rate every actor on a scale of 0 to 100 based on a variety of factors that could include anything from longevity, project choice, pop culture impact, their acting range, their awards footprint, any other talents they might have, personal life, comedic chops, box office success, or anything else that matters to us as Munsons. We will toss it to Case to get us started.
Lorraine Toussaint's hard to evaluate because of the purview of what we look at in our podcast. And it's in the name, Munson's at the movies, right? So it's hard to me to give a ton of points to primarily TV and stage actors. And, I love the screen presence she has, and it's on full display in The Better Sister. I just wish I saw more of that. And I can't really think of any leading roles that she's in. That's pretty detrimental when you're comparing her to 119 other actors who have at least a handful of leading roles. So it's difficult to score her highly in that capacity. I love her background. We consistently say that when actors have a lot of stage background, they tend to have more scene presence, and they command the attention, and their characters take control in those scenes, and you see that from her all the time, and it's a really cool thing to see. While I'd love to rate her higher because of how much I enjoyed her career arc and her work, especially some of her recent work, I just haven't seen her in enough large roles and having to carry projects. So with that, I'm going to give her a 65.
Okay. Aubrey.
I had a hard time with this, just to the extent of I wanted there to be more to go off of, but it felt like once I got into it, I kind of knew what she was going to be. She's a good actor.
Yeah.
She's a good, solid, consistent working actor. She's someone that if I was making a movie, I would want to get in my movie because you need good actors all up and down your cast. And she's one of those. I haven't seen a ton that really caught my attention. She's great in Middle of Nowhere. That's probably the best I've seen her be. But even that, she's not the lead. It's a supporting role. I just think she's a good, solid actor. Her long working career shows that that's what she is. But I would put her at a 60.
Damn, our guest Munson.
Like you guys, I did fluctuate because I just she's got some reasonable work, but like many actors we've judged, like you guys were saying, when you're mainly doing Broadway stuff and you're on an ensemble, you can only remember so many factors to that. And it's like, well, I know you're in it, but I don't necessarily remember your character. The roles where she did get to shine, unfortunately, were TV shows that aren't as well remembered nowadays. But coming at it from just how she would seem still, I would have ranked her probably higher growing up. But nowadays, I would definitely give her a healthy 71. I just like when she is allowed to actually get more screen time, she can make a difference. She's at her best, like we were seeing probably in the late 90s with some of those TV movies and recurring roles, and then getting into the Ava DuVernay material. I do think she has a unique voice and goes beyond just being charismatic and just focusing more on just, do I speak the character's inner truth? Now, unfortunately, I just wish she was in more movies where she could actually do more of that.
Okay. For me, she obviously has a super prolific career in TV and movies. Longevity is there for somebody who's as steady and reliable as she is in her role. So to Aubrey's point, you hire Lorraine knowing that she's going to do a particular job and she's going to do it really well. She hasn't shown that she can carry a project, right? But if you need a really good supporting actor to come in and take the words on the page, bring in life, and especially in a drama on television, she's your girl, right? Like, hire her to do your project. And, you watch things like, you see these little glimpses like Selma, like Middle of Nowhere, Fast Color, where if she's given something meatier and someone trusts her to do something in a film with some more substance, she can do it. She can deliver a monologue. But unfortunately, you just don't see enough of it throughout her career when you start comparing it to other actors we've covered over the years. And it's a shame because you don't know why, some of it is, as a black actor, was she given those opportunities? Probably not, right? Did she want those opportunities? Hard to tell, right? I'm sure she wanted some of those things, but there's always some of that speculation on our end of you have to keep that in context of she wasn't given the same approaches that Michelle Pfeiffer or even Bridget Fonda, being from what she came from family-wise in the industry. So it's just hard to kind of look at that in context. But I would say the joy in what I really enjoyed this process with her. I enjoy this conversation, having Cam on, because Cam, you've seen all these shows over the years, so it kind of gives some color to some of her characters over the years and some of those trends. But like part of the joy with this is you watch old movies on your list, not because you're watching it for her, but because she's in it for 3 minutes, but you like, all right, I'll knock this off. Like the Jamie Lee Curtis classic Mother's Boys, and I use classic very loosely there, where Jamie Lee Curtis plays a mom who goes off the deep end and tries to literally like kill her ex-husband's new boyfriend, and the kid from Little Big League's in it, and Lorraine's barely in it. But like I got to watch movies like that, I guess. So there's some joy in that, I suppose. I'm going to give her credit. She's funnier in interviews than I thought she would be. Like she'd always have a little quip in there that I thought was really entertaining that she would get, because she gets asked the same questions on the circuit over and over again. And her IMDb star meter that Case mentioned was a lot higher than I anticipated. I think he said like 33rd or something like that.
Yes.
She's got a lot of name recognition in certain pockets with certain audiences, which kind of surprised me, but it makes sense when you think about it. But when you compare it to other Munsons, it's just hard to give her a lot of points. Her career, while impressive in its own right, doesn't stack well against my rubric or everybody else. This is why I love this podcast, because you go from a Daniel Day-Lewis, so you're watching somebody who's literally maybe the best at what they do, to Andre Holland, who's this young, promising newcomer who's just like coming out of the box and doing incredible work. And then Lorraine, who's just a steady force for her entire career. That's why I love doing this, because you get to see three very different actors at three different parts of their career and kind of see what they bring to the form. So with all that, I said all that positive stuff. I'm still only going to give her a 57, but with love. So we'll toss it to James to round us out.
I promised the score I am giving wasn't because you gave the same one. I had this in mind beforehand. Yeah, she's a working actress, has a commanding screen presence. I didn't see a role where I thought she did a bad job. Even in bad movies, she did very well. The reasons you guys have already said is the reason why I'm giving a lower score, which is a 57.
With that, that gives Lorraine Toussaint a 62 on the dot, which puts her tied for 101st place with Kristen Schaal. They are just behind Aidan Gillen and Zooey Deschanel, who both are tied for 99th, and just ahead of David Spade and John Slattery. Thoughts?
That sounds about right.
Yeah, I mean, it's a lot of character actors.
Yeah.
All right. Aubrey, what has she got coming?
The most surprising thing from this entire podcast today is that she only has one thing coming outside of what I imagine are more episodes of The Equalizer.
No, that's over.
Oh, okay. Well, then she only has one thing coming. It's called Silent Retreat. The story centers on a man and woman with relationship issues who decide to go on a meditation retreat that requires absolute silence for 3 days, along with the man's best friend and recently widowed mother. Whatever this is, movie, TV series, is wildly interesting. I'll start with the good. Isabella Rossellini and Dennis Haysbert are in it.
Yeah.
Sarah Goldberg is in this also?
Sarah Goldberg's intriguing. I've seen her in a bunch of indie flicks, and I've liked her in most of them.
I like her.
Yeah.
It's odd in this fit. It's from the director of hits such as...
Oh, boy.
Isn't It Romantic? The Final Girls from 2015. Something called Glamorous from 2023. Pitch Perfect, Bumper in Berlin. So, that's your director. And then it comes from the writing mind of Matthew Fogel, who did the Lego Movie 2, the second part, which is a good movie and a great title. But he also did the Super Mario Brothers movie, which isn't bad. But he wrote Minions, The Rise of Gru.
He's wrote a bunch of animated.
Oh, no. Don't worry. He has live action for you. The comedy classic, Big Mamas, Like Father, Like Son.
All right.
So I don't know what this is, but Isabella Rossellini is in it. So I'm interested.
Post-production. Quite sooner than you realize.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, we'll see. All right. Next podcast is going to hit July 17th. We've got Chip Hessenflow coming back. Chip was here previously for James Marsden, Emma Thompson, Matthew Broderick, Annie McDowell, Steve Carell, and Juno Temple. Quite the cadre. We have 5 actors we threw onto the wheel. The wheel selected one. Chip agreed to come join us for that person. So we have Amanda Plummer, Asif Manvi, Ruth Wilson, Chris Pine, and Marcia Gay Harden. What do we love or dislike about that list?
Give me Ruth Wilson. She's fantastic.
It really is. Yeah, you guys will have fun watching her on Luther.
Yes.
The Affair.
Sexy serial killer turned vigilante. It is that complex.
I don't know much about her. I'm going to be completely honest.
Luther's a crazy show.
Yeah, it is.
It really is. That's why it works. You really can't go wrong with many of these actors. I think you're going to probably have similar results where you're like, I wish I could see these people in more things. They're fine, but I can probably only name maybe 3 to 5 movies they're in, just because they've done so much, but they're not all mainstream.
Amanda Plummer's a bunch of 90s stuff, right? Pulp Fiction, Fisher King, stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
4 of the 5 of these I'm good with.
Aubrey, what is the one that you don't want? Is it Asif Manvi?
No, it's Amanda Plummer. I don't know who that is. I'm good on that. The other 4 I'm in on. Marcia Gay Harden's probably the one I want the most.
Be great.
Love Marcia Gay Harden.
Yeah, Stephen King stuff.
Love Marcia Gay Harden.
She's a good actress. She's in a lot of really cool projects over the years. And Chris Pine is he's just charisma incarnate, that guy.
Just likable.
Chris Pine's probably the one that I'd watch maybe the best movies. I'd have the most fun with Chris Pine because I like Chris Pine.
You'd get to rewatch Dungeons and Dragons, that fucking classic from 2 years ago. I love that movie. Dude, that movie's awesome. Honor Among Thieves. That movie's awesome.
Hell or High Water for the 1000th time.
Yeah.
Or Hell and High Water, too.
You'll definitely have fun rewatching that.
That's the one. That's where I thought you were going.
Yeah.
Into the Woods, guys.
That's
Into
true.
the Woods.
Oh, God.
All right, who do we think Chip would pick, knowing his background here?
Wow.
He's hard to get a read on.
That was the last one he picked was Juno Temple.
Based on the other ones, I'm going to go Marcia Gay Harden.
Oh, I hope so. But I'm going to go Ruth Wilson.
Okay. Cam, if you were going to come back to back, who would you pick?
It'd probably be a tie between Chris Pine and Amanda Plummer. There's just a lot of range, even though the former's more likable for its charm, and the other gal's been on a lot of anthology movies and shows. But yeah, Marcia Gay Harden's pretty cool too.
Well, unfortunately, you don't decide, Cam. Neither does Chip.
I don't do anything.
Neither does me. I definitely don't decide. I just hit buttons, and the wheels and computers make decisions here.
Neither does me.
Neither does me. I choose your pronoun. But the wheel decides, and we'll see what happens for episode 121.
Wheel decides.
See, that's a Warren Hicks throwback. I love that. Cam, love having you, man. Appreciate you always bringing your just immense knowledge base of all things TV.
Yeah.
You know how we do. Little red carpet moment for you, Cam. You feel free to drop any words of wisdom for our crowd or any projects you're working on.
In August, we'll be at a Tampa Expo. We'll do a fun movie trivia night for the Alien and Predator movies, as well as just get to do a how-to Q&A for just how to start a podcast for other podcasters. We'll be with the Movies by Minutes community for any of those who have followed that kind of podcast where they summarize a movie or show 1 minute at a time. We're going to give some fun, inspiring advice there and definitely get some autographs and do some fun cosplay.
That's awesome, dude.
Absolutely. I'd love to see you guys at any of these expos. I have a true crime history podcast focusing on the entertainment and Wild West industry in the works. And like any of those take a while because of research. So
good for you, man. You're always working on something. That's what I've learned with you. You've always got something cooking.
Yeah, I love it.
Making time, that's the hard part.
That's right. Time is a finite resource, my friend. But we're glad to have you back. Thanks for joining us for a couple hours to talk through Lorraine.
I applaud your recent collabs. You got some great recurring guests now, and you keep challenging yourselves with all the different movies. And it is so funny how after a while it's like, wait, how many times are we going to bump into the same movie that we've discussed, 20 times now? Everybody seems to be in.
10 years just keeps popping up, man. We can't shake that movie. Can't shake that movie. So
10 years.
All right, man. Well, As we wrap things up, you can always find us on Instagram and Threads, Munsons at the Movies. You can email us, munsonsatthemovies@gmail.com. Any final thoughts from Lorraine Toussaint?
There's nothing they've said about me I haven't said about myself. Miserable cunt? Check. Addict in recovery? You bet. Power hungry bitch? Oh, yes. Not black enough. Too black. Married wife. Fix herself. Ding, ding, ding.
Munson's Out.
All right, let's go. Thank you for the education, gentlemen. We've just received a PhD in stupidity. Doctor, shall we?
Whoever wins the Dylan contest goes there for dinner with me.
And what's the Dylan contest about?
If you can find the poem written by Dylan Thomas that is like a poem written by Bob Dylan, you win Dylan contest.